everyone, and welcome to episode 42 of Spill the RT. I am here with Josh Stein. Hi, Josh.
Hello, Eamon. 42. Oh my God, I can't believe it.
I know. If you have 4 and have 2, you still get 4. You get 21. But
you still be an adult, yeah. If you think about it, it means we're almost up to a year. It's
we
not
are
by
almost
the number,
up to a year.
but literally, I think we're like at 11 months at this point. Which,
I know.
from podcasts, if you think about it, that's like having a restaurant for like 5 years.
That's kind of cool. That actually in episode 52 we'll have done 52 weeks, which there's
Well, no, but at that point, we'll be calendar-wise, we'll be on the first year for sure.
Yeah,
because
cool.
we skip some weeks, we have different gaps and things, right? So
don't tell anybody that. That's all a secret.
But I think when we get to 46, that will actually be a year for us. I think that's the anniversary.
Oh, exciting! An anniversary.
See that, folks?
We'll celebrate that in style. But we have lots of things coming up today on today's show. And we have a very special returning guest who we absolutely adore. But we will talk to him in just a moment. But first, Josh, let us know what is happening on today's show.
This week, 2 art finds, a fresco buried for 90 years, and a possible $12 Renoir. Final proposals have been submitted to finish La Sagrada Família in Barcelona. Notre-Dame got base jumped by a paraglider. And Starry Night has become a garden for real. All that and a visit from a very special returning guest and more are up next as we spill the art tea. Welcome to episode 42.
42. Yeah, baby. Yeah, 42. Baby. Before we welcome on our guest, please, Josh, tell our guests, our visitors, our viewers, what are they to do?
So anyone who's paying attention at this point, please share, like, subscribe, send to 3 friends, leave a comment, buy some swag, smash that button!
Smash that button, subscribe everyone, and please share with all your friends and family, and if you'd like to be a guest, do email us at hello@newacollective.com, and we will be absolutely delighted to have you on. And if you match the energy of our upcoming guest, who is going to be revealed in just a second, then you are more than welcome. So, with that in mind, please welcome our returning guest, our fabulous Mr. Benjamin Griffiths. Come on down. Hello, Ben.
Hello. Thank you for having me back. I know you faced legal issues last time, but we're here. It's amazing, and I'm so happy to be back.
That's okay. Ben, this time we're going to get sued by the Easter Bunny, so it's all good. Don't worry about it.
I am loving those ears. Yes.
Thank you.
Fabulous.
You know I love a seasonal holiday. I love a seasonal holiday.
Any excuse to get dressed up, Ben, you will take it with all of your steed and vigor.
I'm giving it Easter Bunny, but drag.
Loving the Easter eggs. They're almost somewhat testicular.
They're golden because I'm a winner, baby.
Yeah, winner, chicken dinner. Oh well, maybe not with the eggs. That's kind of gone a little bit.
Sure, we'll go with that.
Oh dear. Anywho,
we're doing well. How about you?
Good. Thank you, as always.
Very good.
Time out from delivering Easter eggs to come this glorious podcast.
Ben and I have some exciting revelations to reveal soon. Exciting revelations about what we are going to do next in our Crossing the Line series. We will talk about that a little bit later. But first of all, we will get on with our very first story. So, Josh, where are we going to first?
Off to Los Angeles we go.
Yes.
Back to the 1930s, I guess, is the word to start this story. Although technically, I guess it starts in like the late 19th century. So there was this club called the Ebel, I guess the Ebel maybe. That's a woman's club in Los Angeles, right? Remember that in the United States, feminism had a couple different hubs. One was on the East Coast, one was on the West Coast. Well, I guess several on the West Coast, because San Francisco and Los Angeles. So in LA, anyhow, nonetheless, there was this club. It was this big thing, like women of prominence all joined. It was this thing about like, we're taking power. And they decided to have these frescoes made, which apparently for the time were deemed too bright and too colorful. And from our eyes today, I would say they look kind of quaint, because they're based on, if you look at them, they kind of just look like the sort of things that you typically see in Los Angeles today. They look like placas. They have various kinds of mural elements that have sort of religious overtones in various kinds of ways. This was just called the Four Sibyls, right? And so it's like a classical kind of thing. They didn't like it apparently, and the people at the time decided after 2 years of discussion, we're getting rid of them. But instead of destroying them, the people at the time just painted over them in order to preserve them. And so they were recently unearthed after 90 years.
My goodness. The article had said that they were too loud, too flat, and too female, which I thought was just a little bit outrageous, and that was the reason why they were hidden. What do you think, Ben?
I would not know anything about that. Let me just take off my gold sparkly Easter egg earrings for a serious discussion. I think these are beautiful, absolutely
Yeah.
stunning. I love Los Angeles and I love these. And if there's one store going, you know what? I can't afford it, but I'll take it.
I think there's very decadent also. I love how pretty they are and how beautiful they represent these females. Like, I just don't understand why they would like to just, get rid of them. Maybe they're just, I don't know. They were just
It's
very
weird if you think about it,
overwhelming.
because like less than 40 years later in the United States, right? Something like this would have been absolutely accepted in terms of public art, whereas graffiti is fighting for a foothold at that point to be recognized as something that's not like littering the public landscape,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And in the same way that today's graffiti murals fight to be preserved, right? So it's this idea of like public art is always in tension because it's a constant conversation and push and pull between different parts of the public. And the United States in particular, where a lot of this involves like either private monies or public funding, it tends to be a lot of like tug of war. But the nice thing is it got preserved, right? Like they smartly didn't destroy it. They just said, "Well, just paint it over." Apparently, there was 9 layers of paint that the conservator had to unpack
Oh,
using
wow.
different chemicals. Yeah, it's because you don't want to damage the paint underneath, right? So you have to
Yeah.
use chemicals that can peel off each layer of paint separately.
It's great, and it's great that they've actually found the pigment through that as well to be able to
Yeah,
bring that color out so
yeah.
vibrantly is what they have. But they
Well,
are no longer overveiled by the
Well,
curtains of
actually,
the.
they still are, because this is shots from back in the 1930s when it was originally done. So the
Oh, okay.
conservator did a very small square, like an A4 square, to figure out what was underneath. When she found it, she then immediately covered it back up because this stuff has been under paint for 90 years and it will oxidize and then flake off if it's not
Oh,
preserved correctly. So this stuff's currently still not revealed to the world, but it will be eventually because they want to preserve this now. Like anything else, if you find it and then there's enough money behind it, guess what? It gets saved and
it
preserved.
gets it. Well, that's
So
great.
they
That's
are
great.
so good, they do belong in a gallery, which goes back to the kind of whole meaning behind it. Why were they covered in the first place? They're
The
beautiful
patriarchy.
art.
Well, so what's his name? I forget the guy's name at the moment. So there was a multiple people in the 1930s who were well known for doing very large murals, public murals, up and down the California coast. The recently bought by Jobs's widow in San Francisco Art School has these giant murals that are done. And so this was a long time kind of public art thing on the West Coast and still is in parts of Central and Latin America, right? You still often see kind of religious themes, paintings of different kinds in public that are done as frescoes on the walls. And so this is like a long time tradition. The thing was that at the time, apparently, it was just too risque for what these looked like in the eyes of the particular people who were running the club, which is,
Yeah.
rich people with money have their own opinions always, don't they?
Well, at the very least, they're reserving them now and they're bringing them back to life, hopefully, in the next number of years. But yeah, fair play.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
good. That's
It
good.
may be a
That's
What can
good.
silly
I tell you?
question, but who owns them? So is it the original artist? Is it the owner of
No,
the
the
building
artist is
now?
long dead. No, the artist is long dead, right? And so when you do public art like this, it becomes attached to the
To
place.
the
It's
building,
like
yeah.
when Banksy does something on a building, right? And the building owner then has the responsibility of either painting over it, preserving it, having it cut out so that people don't come and cut it out for themselves. Like all kinds of things can happen with public art. And so in this case, it happens to be on the inner walls of a courtyard of this private club that's been in existence now for I guess 140 or 150 years. And
What
part
a
of it said
find.
it's a private club, right? I mean, you guys are in the UK. Come on, like how many private clubs are there who have like
I
walls that go
wouldn't know.
back?
I'm never invited to them, so I wouldn't really know. There
Never
could be
belong to any club
Private
that
for
will
a
have you as a
reason.
member anyway,
there
right?
there
Like no,
could
no,
be
no,
50
no.
of them. I've no idea. I'm not invited to any of them. But we will move back in
Oof.
time even more so. And speaking of old things, we're going to go and find something in the attic. Once again, we love cash in the attic, don't we?
Well, this is the opposite, right? So that's finding something in public. This is Pennsylvania, and a lady who's like, I guess she was just at like a junk sale, right? $12. It turns out to be an actual Renoir drawing. So who knows how much is actually valued at this point? But I would say, should she decide to, and it's been validated, an actual like researcher has now like certified it as this is a Renoir sketch. So I don't know, $1 million, who knows? But $12. So as always, go looking, folks, because you don't know what you're
You
going to
never
find.
know what you're going to find in that attic. Portrait de femme of Gabrielle Renard.
That is a profit margin.
It's a profit
Yeah,
margin.
you think?
For Alan Sugar, because that is a margin, let me tell you.
Alan Sugar would be sure to keep them in the boardroom for another week. They are not fired.
Right? If you could find a Renoir for a tenner, I think you would not complain, right? Like, come on.
I wonder though when they bought them, clearly the person who bought it didn't have an idea of who the heck Renoir was, because you can very clearly see Renoir in the bottom right there under her little derriere.
Right.
But
But just because it says it, particularly if you're talking about going through like junk sales or like swap meet kind of stuff, there's all kinds of prints and things that are always out there, right? So the thing about this was on the back side, this is often, if you want to look for the key how to do this, folks, this is like the behind the scenes true thing. On the backside of these kinds of things, there's import stickers, and there'll be various kinds of, usually in pencil back in the day, that are like from whose hands is going from here to here and the dates. So that's how you start to establish provenance on these kinds of things. It's not the fact that it says Renoir on the front. It's the fact that it has this guy who was well-known collector back in the 1950s on the back. And because that person is well known, well, guess what? That adds to the provenance of the piece and lets someone who's like trying to track this down, that gives them a good way to start. They're not guessing in the dark. They have something to go by.
oh, well,
As Kim Kardashian would say, you don't put up a bumper sticker on a Bentley.
no, you put a bumper sticker underneath the bum instead.
See, I would.
Oh dear. Well,
But that's why I don't have a Bentley. But I'm just saying.
And that tea is spilled. So, moving now to Barcelona.
Barcelona!
To the Sagrada Familia. And we are almost finished. It's almost there.
So, for those that don't know, the La Sagrada Família didn't even start with the guy who's most connected with it. Long before Gaudi was involved, there was another architect and team that started this. This goes back to like the late 19th century at this point, right? We're talking about like 140, 150 years of trying to build this damn thing.
Hashtag history lesson incoming.
When Gaudi was brought in, right, at that point, it started to become this thing where it was this like mixture of nature and the sacred and reaching to the sky. And they're not even done yet. Just to be clear, they're declaring this thing done at the 150th anniversary with only 11 of the 16 spires in place. So even though it's technically done, it's not actually done because they're still going to keep building on this thing for who knows how much longer. Nonetheless, the final designs have been submitted for the final fascia of how the actual whole Sagrada Família will look like when all is said and done. Maybe.
Well, they are speaking to 3 different artists, I believe, about creating a new front door for the Sagrada Familia. There are 3 different types of front doors. I think one is based in hell, the other is based in Judgment Day, I think, and the third is the heaven, I assume, or the kind of the whatever.
It sounds like an X Factor style situation.
I know.
Golden buzzer on
So it's like,
how are we deciding this?
So
we
have 3 artists, Ben. We have 3 artists. The first one is Javier Marin, and actually, I don't think I put them separately. I have put them all together. But these are 3 artworks by the 3 artists that are presenting ideas for the front door, and I just thought they were all very intriguing based on exactly what
to be clear, these are not their designs for the front door.
They are not the designs for the front door. However, these are part of their back catalogue. So coming up first on the left, reading left to right on the screen, we have Javier Marin. And as we can see, we have quite the decadent wooden sculpture that is very beautifully sculptured. And
it's inviting. My question would be, where's the door handle?
Where's the...
So for those that are listening and not watching, we're looking at a very well-endowed, carved, male, torso and crotch.
Yeah, not very typical to the classical Renaissance sculptures where they might be significantly smaller. This one is very
Yes.
much showing off their goods. So that is Exhibit A. Exhibit B is by Michele Barcelo, and it is a vase with
It's something ceramic that like
yeah.
it's definitely like a non-figurative ceramic. I was the best way I would describe it. It's
There's
got
like
some pink and some white and some. It's kind of like an amphora, but not.
there's like paperfuls stuffed into it, and it's like they were like stuffed in so much that they broke the shell of the vase, and now they're peering out from the sides as well.
Very much like an Easter egg. It's that time of
Yes,
year,
it's
as we've
like an
discussed
Easter egg.
already.
It's
It's
definitely
topical.
well. So like the urn kind of thing is a very typical thing that they work with in ceramics, right? And
Mm,
so this is like very contemporary in trying to break the bounds between sort of what a vessel should be, I think is the way
sure.
to put it. How's
Okay.
that? There's
Yeah,
my
that's
MFA.
that's very descriptive and well analyzed. Yes. 10 marks to Gryffindor. And excellent job. And finally, the last contender for the front door for the Sagrada Familia is the Christiana Iglesias piece, which is also sculptural, but it's kind of slightly 2D as well, but it's not. It is very much 3D, and it's like from the floor laying against the wall, and it's almost like roots of a tree, maybe, or some
It's
sort
the
of
Game of
growth.
Thrones. Let's be
It's the game of
realistic.
Yes.
It
it's the game.
really is.
Yes.
There's
Well,
something
without the
very
seas.
it's
Uh,
organic. It's
the bad
organic.
part.
I would say it's organic, but also kind of dark in its kind of structural design elements. I don't know.
I think it's fab. Anyway, I like that, but it's not up to us; it's up to our viewers. So,
Yeah,
viewers
but
at
not
home,
but none of
please.
these are actually going to be designed for
No, leave it in your comments below, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between. Who is going to be your favorite? Choose now.
It's just like look at someone's past work. Guess which one's going to produce something they want to like come on, who knows?
Well,
It's all
there
a
you
game
go.
anyway.
It's all it's
But
all it's all game. Apparently, it can be two. Can be a combination of two, though.
here's a good
Ooh,
bit of
interesting.
trivia. Why is it taking so long to finish this damn thing?
Um,
I
because
guess
it's
it's
so
not
big.
damned. Why is it taking so long to finish this holy thing? No, it's not the size. It's not the size. It's that it's privately funded. And
It's almost
so
the size.
when they've had different economic situations, right? Like the
Mm,
Spanish Civil War, the Great Depression, these things like made their funding dry up. And so that's
okay.
what has like slowed down and sped up. So apparently, if you're a good Catholic, you've been giving to Sagrada Familia. And if you're not such a good Catholic, then they've been looking for money.
Well, that's
I've
kind
been
of
I'm not
that.
three
Oh,
times. If that makes any difference,
you've
I
been
feel
three
like I've
times.
contributed to the building of this.
Well, it's very much what they used to do in classical or Renaissance
yes.
cathedral building and painting building and all that. They used to, the more the artists gave or the more money patrons gave for the church, the more they were likely to get into heaven. So it's kind of like they're
Yeah.
buying their way in. So
And it's still the
yeah.
same way now. Like most modern, you know, where they're like building religious things, like the donors. Same thing in universities, right? You buy a little block or a little plaque, and that translates into things that get used elsewhere.
Yep.
But it's about having your name, right? I go back to the idea: if you really want to give, your name shouldn't be attached to it in the first place.
Ironically, that's one of the seven deadly sins, isn't it? Pride.
Yep, yep. Give,
Well,
but don't let people know that you have given. That's
well, cheers to that, and that tea is spilled.
Can I give you your Easter gift at this point, guys? I've got
You
you a
can,
little
of
something.
course.
oh sure.
Oh my goodness, Maltesers.
This is
There's
not another brand endorsement,
Is
I
this a product
promise.
placement?
Okay? Because otherwise, I would have scrubbed Fenty all over the front of this. But
These are
happy
only
Easter.
available. These are only available in the U.S. at special
Oh,
import UK. They're not widely available.
you
Sorry.
are missing out, US. Maltesers are yum yum
Really?
delicioso. You would just absolutely love them. Get them. Spend the extra £5. I heard actually. So for those who are listening from Ireland, talk about inflation and all of the tariff wars that are happening in the US. There is a really amazing butter called Kerrygold. It's a creamery butter. It's the best butter that you'll ever taste. That is available to buy in the US, but apparently
Yes.
it's on the shelf for $7.50 at the moment
Yeah.
for a pound of
Yeah.
butter.
Yeah.
$7.50.
Yeah. But when you keep in mind the fact that like the dollar now is like half of the value that it was just a couple years ago because of inflation, 375 for a pound of Kerrygold is actually not bad. Not as good as you do if you were buying wholesale in the restaurant business or something, right? But that's not really bad. You
No.
just like you have to readjust what money is in
Yeah.
at this point, folks.
Yeah, but
But
this is a
especially with
note.
the egg
Oh,
situation, everyone's talking about it.
mm-hmm.
Everyone's talking about it. Is that
Everyone.
appropriate to say?
Excellent. Well, let's leave it at that. Take a little break and we'll talk about New Collective just for a moment. We'll be right back after these messages. New Collective, an arts community collective with art, artists, and art publications with fresh work, news, and app updates added weekly to our online collection at www.newacollective.com. Here you will also find our Newa Journal featuring articles and podcasts, which are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok, like this video, and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss us out on Spilling the RT in our weekly roundups every Monday. Woo, woo, woo. Yeah, baby. So, Josh, tell us, quick. What's happening? What do they need to do? What do all of our guests and audiences, people have to do? What do they do?
Like, share, subscribe, send to 3 friends, leave a comment, buy some swag, smash
some
that
swag.
button.
Yeah,
be
bam.
a guest. Be a guest. Suggest someone to be a guest.
Be our
Find
guest.
us a sponsor.
Be our guest. Yes,
Find us a sponsor.
Yes, Maltesers may get in touch with us and potentially give
How
us some
about this
funds.
one? Find us a sponsor that's not a robo blowjob machine, because I know a very popular podcast that's their current sponsor. Yeah, a robotic blowjob robot. Yeah. So we don't
And the
want that kind
podcast
of
is called
sponsor.
what? Sorry.
No offense,
Yeah,
but I don't think we want.
Are we going to release the name of the podcast that does this?
No.
Oh,
no, I will
okay.
not. No. That's
Okay,
not, figure it out for yourself, folks.
Right.
I'm
This
not giving
episode
that
went
one.
from PG-13 to 18s, all in one bite of a conversation. Super. So, with that in mind, let's move into our next story. So, we are heading back to
if you think
Paris.
about it, it's actually appropriate because
is.
this is about defying the law
Of gravity.
defying expectations.
What a wicked
So-
Josh, how hard did
okay.
it take you to avoid saying the word defying gravity?
So I think everybody knows at this point what base jumping is, right? You climb
Yes.
something high, you have a parachute. As you jump, you throw out the parachute, and hopefully you live. Someone did something even better to the top of the reconstructed Notre Dame Cathedral. They decided to paraglide off of the cathedral. Yes.
Here it goes. And there's a little video if you're watching this on our YouTube channel, but if you haven't seen it, check it out. This absolute maniac decides to scale the Notre Dame, the newly beautifully restored Notre Dame, might I add, to just defeat
This
things.
looks
But
like this looks like an excuse to die to me. But what do I know, right? Like,
I think it
It
was
doesn't
also
look safe. I don't like heights, but this does not look safe in the slightest. I'm sorry.
if you look at what's
Where's
still
his
around
health and
him,
safety permit? Where is government permits?
it's not just, it's like one bad gust of wind and you're slamming into a crane, right? Like, there's stupidity born every minute, clearly. And here's an example.
there was an article I read in relation to this because I couldn't find the actual video, so I was down a big stream of paths. And there was one said, "The Lord said rise, and he did so." It was like, oh Jesus,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, if you want some insight, folks, into our pre-production, right? I find this stuff. He's then got to track down some of the images for this stuff.
I go
always
into this very, very narrow tunnel sometimes that just reveals so many things that I didn't even think that I could possibly come across in my existence. But there you go. But it does raise the question, potentially, of how good the security is. And
Clearly not.
Yeah,
How did he get up there? Eamon, as me and you know, these like gallery or obviously historic buildings, they've got security and quite strict security.
They do.
No.
They
Come
do.
on.
They
Got
wouldn't even
onto
let
the
us take
top.
pictures of
Literally the top.
of ironing boards.
Look at what Banksy and Invader do around the world. between the two of them, you're talking about probably 10,000 instances of defying what the government has said you're supposed to be doing, right?
Yeah.
Like they go places all the time. We covered it, and we covered an entire
have.
building in Los Angeles that graffiti writers covered 100 stories in murals.
Yeah.
Nobody even saw them do it. Like,
Not to mention your friend Mr. Beast and all he does.
that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
Right. But this is like only being seen once you want to be seen. And that's the whole point. Is it's actually apparently very easy to do this in most places.
Would you consider this performance art?
I guess from a certain perspective, you could call it performance art. I don't
Mm.
know, because they are recording it, right? So
Yeah.
the idea is to make it a spectacle. I guess
Mm.
for me, I think the difference is normally when you think of performance art, you're thinking about it in the context of fine art or high art,
Yeah,
whereas
yeah.
spectacle is about pop culture, right? It's about the notoriety of being known.
But saying that, we see how people are trying to get attention through all of the spectacle stuff, and they would consider themselves fine artists and would consider themselves performance artists.
So
But
you remember the famous one that came up a couple years ago? It was during the pandemic, of the guy that was on the longboard who decided to have like the Capri Sun or whatever it was. He was
Oh, yeah.
drinking, and he was on the longboard and he sang to like a lyric from a Fleetwood Mac song. And it went viral. It got like 1 billion views. And he
Yeah.
tried to turn that into something else. He tried to make a brand out of himself. But I think the idea of it just being a spectacle, I don't know if you can actually grow that bigger.
Yeah.
Mr.
I think-
Beast is doing that, but
I
that's
think-
only because his brand is multiple spectacles.
you hit the nail there, though. It's the viral word. I think he's doing this for the TikTok views. Let's
Oh,
call
yeah,
a
of
spade a
course.
But
spade.
then it's still interesting to watch. I think it goes back to it's bringing art to the masses and possibly a different audience as well.
Yeah.
So I think
Well,
it's twofold.
I would argue that the difference between spectacle and art is that the only point of spectacle is to be seen, whereas the point of art is to make you think in some way. And I don't know that watching someone jump from Notre Dame or Sagrada Familia when this idiot decides to do it in a couple of years when the spires are open, or you know what I mean?
Well, that would be
I
something
think,
to scale. That's like much higher than that.
I think spectacle's about ego. And
Yes.
I think the best artists, obviously some of them are complete egomaniacs, but art eventually gets separated from its maker and the art has to stand on its own. And
Yes.
because these people involve themselves in it to such a degree, it's impossible to kind of make that separation. That's where I would draw the distinction. But what do I know?
What do you know? You know everything.
Not much.
You're
Not
very
That
good.
egg has been
Yep.
cracked.
That.
That's the new Benjamin Bunny series.
Oh,
Cracking
Ben.
eggs with Ben the
Ben.
Bunny.
gold. You're a golden egg, you are. Okay, so moving swiftly along to something nice and calming now. We're going to
Yeah,
get into the
I thought
calm
this was
zone.
cool.
Namaste. Namaste to Bosnia and Herzegovina.
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 This is how you know that you're a child of the 90s and not someone who was living through it, because we learned the word Bosnia Herzegovina many, many times as that whole entire area collapsed.
Of course.
Right? Civil war, all kinds of things, right? Very bad things. We're not getting into any of that. Here we are 30 years later, and this guy decided, well, look, I have this property and I want to turn it into something in terms of landscape art that will really honor the past, but also give the future something to like participate in. So Starry Night, like we always talk about how, guess who's like the world's most famous, most beloved. So Starry Night is now land art, which is really kind of cool.
We love Van Gogh on this podcast, but this is it was a happenstance. It was something that it wasn't pre-planned at the beginning, but then he saw the opportunity in the swirls and in the waves, and saw that, oh, this could be a reflection on Starry Night. I thought that was really amazing.
But I think we're just talking about the difference between art and spectacle, right? Because you can say, well, isn't this a spectacle too? But see how this was allowed to evolve, right? Artists, no matter what medium that you're working in, where you start and where you finish is never the same place. The journey is absolutely part of how the piece evolves. And so that to me is one of the key differences, is that this is about something that is going to continue to evolve because it's using living elements, right? And so that's also the beauty of land art, is it doesn't stop with the maker.
I do have one question, and
Okay.
it's a chicken and egg question.
Of course.
So you may have also have seen earlier this week, Universal Studios is arriving in the UK.
Oh yes, with their big
2031. They released the concept art for the park.
Yes.
It looks a little bit like this. I'm not going to lie. If you put the two side by side,
Well,
who thought to
maybe
go
that
first?
they stole the concept ideas from this
I'm not
beautiful
making
garden.
any accusations such as that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying, put the two side by side. Which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Well, I think maybe Hallam Zuik must give Universal a little telephone call, ring them up like Gaga did to Beyonce and say, "Hey, girl, yeah, you stole my plans."
As we would say in the US, good luck with that.
Yep. That is a very US saying. I am subject to that quite often. But that's yeah. I think that would be a great spectacle. And if you would like to go and have the retreat version of that Parkland experience, go to Bosnia and Herzegovina in May
Bosnia
2025.
Herzegovina.
Bosnia
Herzegovina.
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 There's no N in there. It's Herzegovina. Herzegovina.
Okay. Gesundheit. I don't know.
Gesundheit.
But it does look beautiful, and I like the fact it's immersive. It's not just going to a gallery; it's
Yeah.
something different.
Yeah.
You could go with a loved one on a romantic trip. You could go with family. You could go with friends. You could go solo for some reflective time.
Absolutely.
Well, we covered land art in the past, and there's a
We
huge
have.
one that opened up in the Southwest, which only allows 5 visitors a day, and it's
Wow.
a giant. It's got hundreds and hundreds of acres to it. Yeah, remember City?
Yeah,
Remember
I do. Yeah, I forgot about that.
So
Italy should
like
take
this
some
is
notes.
this is the opposite, right? Yeah, right. This is the opposite because it's trying to invite people in to enjoy it. But part of it too is depends on the materials you're working with and the location, and right. Even land art has context. There's history, right? And so land has a history where you do something like this would absolutely matter. Doing this in France, I think, would have very different meaning than doing it in a place that had like tremendous genocidal impulses for a decade, right? Like there's a little difference there.
Yeah. Well, there you go. So, get your tickets to Universal and then get your relaxation afterwards in Bosnia Herzegovina. And that's that tea spilled. And that egg is cracked, in the words of Benjamin Griffiths. So, our Benjamin Bunny today. We're Benjamin Bunny today. Apologies. Well,
For the
Ben,
whole week, Easter
Ben,
Sunday, we've got Easter Monday. I'm not off duty yet. Okay,
you
There's
have
many
loads
more
of
eggs to
we have
lay,
loads of
crack,
other eggs
and
that you'd like to
everything
hatch.
else in between.
Well, we're going to go and talk to you now a little bit about some of the movie Easter eggs. So you had this fun idea about let's crack opening some of the historically fabulous Easter eggs.
And do you want to
Yes,
tell us
I
what an
think-
Easter egg is?
I think, yeah, that'll be a good intro. Thank you. Go on.
Oh, you want me to tell you what an Easter egg is?
Yeah,
I thought you were
hand
going
over to you.
So an Easter
to you.
egg in the context of movies and film and television, right, is a kind of wink at the audience, an inside joke. The classic one is like Hitchcock in every one of his films. You always saw at least one shot of Hitchcock in every film, right? Like it had nothing to do with the film. It would be like a crowd shot, and there'd be Hitchcock. Hey, so that's where
Is that what he did? Hey,
in the Birds, right?
He is actually the head of the shower scene in Psycho. Ben's like, what am I doing with my Sunday evening?
It goes back to fandom. I think, like, every time I've been on here, I'm very passionate about a few certain subjects, whether it's Rihanna, whether it's Wicked, whether it's whatever. And I think
That's the first Rihanna mention, folks. For those that are keeping track of today's episode,
there you go.
Drink now.
Won't be the last. It won't be the last. But what I love about these Easter eggs, it's more than just the producers kind of having a giggle behind the scenes, putting stuff in the viewers or may not know. It's they're nodding to the fans. They're respecting that these massive franchises that some people live and like die by. It really goes back to the fact that they're sort of giving the franchises the longevity, and it's a nod back to them. It's a thank you to them. And I think for me, that's what I love about these.
It's a tacit way of breaking the fourth wall, right? Because it's not directly looking at the camera, but obviously if you're in the know, then you know, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it's a community. And I think like you look at all of the sci-fi conventions around the world. We now get reality TV conventions around the world. It really goes back to community and being authentic and allowing the audience to come in. And as you just said, Josh, that it's a nice nod when you're in the movie theater, when these come on screen and fans can recognize them.
Yeah.
It creates some kind of conversation or connection, or we know you're here, we appreciate you're here, and Yeah, I just think it's a very lovely thing in the entertainment industry, and it's becoming more and more common. Especially there's the obvious franchises. We've got Star Wars, we've got the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think Wicked, as we know, has been a complete phenomenon since it came out at the end of last year. And I think I saw they had over 70 Easter eggs in the Wicked film, and primarily acknowledging the original musical, which again
Yeah.
is a lovely thing in itself.
Mm.
You're celebrating the start of something that's sort of having a new
Yeah.
chapter.
Well, at what point does it stop being an Easter egg? It just becomes an homage, because that's like that's like one a minute in terms of the film, right? I say at that point, you're not really Easter egging. You're literally just incorporating the past incarnation into what you're doing. No.
This, to be fair, was a very obvious one. So to have the two original stars of the Broadway hit Wicked, the musical, appear in the film, I think was a given. I think for me, what I enjoyed about this was the prominence of their role. They had a whole scene to themselves. They were able to sing a whole set to themselves. And then almost there was a moment in the film where they hand over to Ariana and Cynthia
Yeah.
as the new character. So I think, okay, was it an obvious Easter egg? Yes.
But only if you
prominence.
know, right?
Well, yeah. Well,
I didn't see the Broadway, and I haven't seen the film, right? This is not where I normally spend my time. Nothing against it. I just have other interests that I pay attention to. So something like that to me is like, well, that's actually kind of cool, right? Because if you know, you know. And if you don't,
yeah.
it's just like, well, part
It
of the
just
film.
passes you by, but that's
Yeah.
okay, because I suppose then that's honoring those who do know and giving them that little thank you very much for being like a super fan. But also I think as well, and it may be more homage than Easter egg, or maybe they are the same thing, is that they had quite a few of the past Galinda and
Alphabet.
and they had most of the past Galindas and Elphabas that were featured in other Broadway and West End productions throughout the film in different roles, which I thought was really nice too. So it kind of gave them a little bit of a nudge, because they were the ones that built the legacy and built what it is to be as famous as what Wicked is. But yeah, that's Wicked. There's another one here. We refer back to last week's episode where we spoke about E.T. and here we have E.T.
So this is from episode
Yes.
1, I think, right? Where they're in the Galactic Senate.
In Star Wars, yes.
The Galactic Senate, and so like there's all these different kinds of things. There's multiple Easter eggs in this scene apparently, but the one that most people remember is there's 3 ETs as being represented in the Star Wars universe.
This is really cool,
because
because
Lucas and Spielberg Easter egg each other back and forth across like 10 different films.
Oh, that's so cute.
So apparently every time Spielberg does something, it's something in reference to Star Wars. Every time Star Wars does something, it's reference obviously Spielberg has many more things to pull from than Lucas does, but that's apparently what they do back and forth. It's like cinematic really love between directors, you know.
Usually they hate each other or they're in competition with each other, but they seem to have some sort of
Spielberg, Lucas, Coppola, a couple others all go back to the same film school at the same time. So they all grew up together and came into the industry at the same time. They were part of what was called the Hollywood New Wave, and they would never tour at each other. It was the opposite.
Oh, that's so sweet. I love that for them.
They funded each other. When someone made money, they became the producer on the others. That's why Coppola is the producer on so many of these various films, because he made the most money from The Godfather.
Oh, the more you know. That's really nice. I really like that. There's this piece here as well, which is slightly more satirical and also a little bit more political. Do you want to describe what's happening here, Ben?
This is another love of mine. So I was obsessed with X-Men when I was younger. And as a genre, sci-fi, fantasy, I love it anyway. But traditionally, so the X-Men franchise has sat with a different studio to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. They now belong as one. And this film, which was Deadpool versus Wolverine, really teased and quite frankly and abruptly and in your face teased the past between the two studios. And I think was a beautiful nod to what's to come. And they got some big actors reprising roles in this film. When I watched it, even I was like, okay, like you've taken this like it is quite tongue-in-cheek, but you've taken it seriously. And I think it's for fans of the comic book series, it was a real nod to this is what's to come.
This is a double Easter egg though, because this is also a nod back to Planet of the Apes. right? Anytime you have something like this that's buried in the sand in this way, it's that scene at the end of Planet of the Apes with the Statue of Liberty. Oh, you humans, what have you done? So
I did not know this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. You're a bit of a
Happy
buff, are you,
Easter, Benjamin
Josh?
Bunny. There you go. That was your gift to me.
Josh the Buff Bunny.
Long before Ben was born, I was collecting and reading the X-Men. So yes, I am a fan of many of these things. And what I would say is, like, the whole point of the Easter egg is how many layers of cheekiness you could do, particularly in something like a Deadpool film, where literally every scene is like layered with so many layers of just trying to poke at you. But also, if you're a fan, it's nothing but throwbacks and callbacks. And that's essentially what an Easter egg is, right?
Love that.
But to me, that's I find it interesting, this concept of like the homage versus the Easter egg, because like an homage is literally trying to do what was done in the past and kind of honor it, whereas the Easter egg is like, if you know, you know. And that's like a weird sort of, very interesting.
Oh, well, there you go.
See what Ben the Bunny has brought us today.
He has brought us bucket loads of debate. If you've got any thoughts, drop them in the comments below.
X-Men, Wicked, you name it.
And before we finish up, where is the next place that you two are going to get your asses kicked out of? What's coming next?
Well, so Ben and I are going to go discover the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And as you know quite well, we're doing this for you, Josh. We're doing this for you because we all know here on Spill the RT how much Josh loves an antiquity fair. So there are plenty of antiquities within the V&A.
And to be fair, I have been to the V&A. I have seen that sculpture garden. I know exactly what they're going to be talking about, and I can't wait to see whether they get their asses kicked out or not.
I'm still looking for Lucy Lawless. That's all I'm doing. My ongoing quest for Lucy remains.
Oh dear!
Just remember, you're not allowed to touch.
We're not allowed to touch. Not allowed to touch.
I'm well aware of that now. They can't touch my ears. They can't touch my ears either. So how about that? Take that, galleries in the UK.
Stay tuned to our social media platforms and on our website, www.newacollective.com, where you will find out more information as to when that series will be released, which will happen very, very soon. So we are coming towards the end of our episode, but before we do so, Josh, do you want to remind everybody what they have to do?
You got to like, you got to share, you got to subscribe, you got to send it to 3 friends, you got to leave a comment. Come on, let us know you're at least watching.
Yes.
Suggest a sponsor. I don't know. Smash that button. Smash that button.
And if you've been listening on our podcast, thank you very much. We really appreciate that, as we see that there are quite a few of you listening on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and wherever you get your podcasts from. So thank you very much for listening in as well. If you do want to see some of the artworks or any of the visual references, we do put them up in short form through our podcast reels on our Instagram channel, on our TikTok page, and also on our YouTube. So do check them out and you can get a little bit closer to the work that we are talking about. So that's really cool.
And we should say, as we are beginning to approach our year anniversary, we really are appreciative of those that have been listening and watching, because it really has, it's the cool thing about the modern world is you actually have numbers. You can watch shit actually grow. And so we've done this, and we did this from the very beginning, knowing we were doing this for the long play, not a short term. That's why year one is just year one from us, from our perspective. But it's really been heartening to see those numbers grow over time and into different channels. It really does. It makes us know that we're not just doing this for ourselves.
We're not just talking to the wind, Josh. We're doing something. So, with all of that in mind,
birthday party. Are you having a first birthday party? And can I be invited?
Ben,
for sure, 100%. But I don't know what we're gonna do. We'll figure something out. You're definitely, for sure, given you're like one of our most often visited people, I think for sure we'll have something with some of our previous guests for something.
Yes,
we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Stay tuned. Bring a cake.
That's right. You got to check back in. You got to come back in, folks, and see what we do in a month. Who knows?
Giggity. Cool. Great. Well,
my doctor says the same.
Well,
okay then.
I'm going to wrap this up now. That's all we have time for, folks. But join us again next week as we spill some tea and share some of the world's best news art stories. Thanks for joining us, Ben. Thanks, Josh. And happy Easter, everyone. Bye.